Hello, welcome to Nezzo's Bad Shop. I'm Nezzo. Excuse me, and I seem to have a frog in my throat right off the hop. But yes, I'm your host, and welcome to another production. Tonight, or whenever you're watching this, excuse me, there is a frog in the throat. You are looking at Nezzo's MC-1. This is my comp car, and yes, this is the car I nicknamed Nikki. If some of those of you at the track have heard me refer to this car as Nikki, this is the one I will compete with and have competed with. Done alright so far, and I've set it up for a lot of weight shift and a lot of droop and suspension travel. That's why the front end sits so high. Super soft as well. Even in the rear, super soft. But yes, the reason why I'm filming this car and the reason why you're seeing it here on the shop YouTube is because somebody requested MC-1 rear, the rear active toe rear end tuning setup. What Reve-D calls their rear A-arm set, which I believe is part number M1-RAC. I believe that's the part number. So yeah, I'm going to look at that. We're going to check out the rear end, get the body posts off so we can pop the body off and take a look. And I can explain some of the tuning and how it is applied and how it works. So you get an idea of that. I already have a build video of this and talking about other stuff about the Reve-D MC-1 conversion kit and what you need to get it going and different levels of that. That already exists on the tube, but no tuning yet. So someone requested it, so I film it. And here we go. Oh yes, and my body. Last time we were at Elite, got to meet Afro RC, had him autograph my body. Thank you very much, Afro. Check out Afro RC on YouTube and Instagram and yeah, a couple places. But yes, he's on YouTube too, doing other different kinds of tunes and other type of content as well, RC Drift, so check him out. Yes, you are looking at my MC-1, aka Nikki. And this is my car, my crazy setup, lots of suspension travel, etc. Cool WTF fan. Put it in gold there. And so we're gonna look at the rear end. Now you can see I've got the rear active toe set up here, that kit I was talking about, the extra arm pieces there. Okay, the thing you'll notice the most is how this is set up and how it works. So you can see I have toe in applied, just because the way the car sits, but as we move the suspension up and down, you'll notice that the toe goes outwards. The toe changes. So if I bring this more closer and I focus on the rear wheel here, see how I got toe in? The wheel is towed inward to the center of the chassis, but on suspension compression bound, as it's called, see how it moves outward? See that? So what that translates to is on track when we're drifting, when I'm drifting, and the weight shifts and the weight leans. So let me put the front wheels, for example. Say we're drifting that way. When the car leans on the weight, you see the wheel change. So what this will do is when the wheel toes out on load, it does a small camber change as well. As per tradition of suspension, you will get a camber change on load. That's the idea. So that's why there's also camber on the rear end. Camber changes, wheel flattens out not only vertically but horizontally. So both ways, when you get the double effect, and we get wheel straight and the toe out position, that will result in increased grip. So side bite, if you will, the drift bite. When the car is leaning like this, that increases the side bite, that increases rear grip, especially when coming out of a corner. You can use less throttle to gain more grip up effect. You can also tune this as well, so when the suspension is bound, instead of it towing inward, towing outward, as I have it here as a default setting is, you can flip this one part down. Where is it? Here we go. I don't want to block the light. It's down here. I have the instructions as well, but it's down here. It's where the link mounts to. Let me get a better thing. Yeah, so it's that piece down in here. You flip the one piece down here, and that makes the change, where it'll change it from, instead of towing outward, it'll tow inward. Now I have the instructions here because it is kind of hard to see because it's buried in the wheel. But basically, literature. Oh, I had the right side. Yes, so it's this piece, the rear knuckle plate. See that piece? So that piece is right there, and the piece as they want it positioned is exactly like that. So if you take that and flip it so the bottom part here is upward, where that link mounts. Instead of that mount linking to the downside, if it links on the upward side, that will tow it in on compression. And when it tows in on compression, what that does is it gives you slip, increased slip. So if you drift the car casually into the corner, when it gets towards the higher angle of the drift, your wheel will tow in, you'll get more slip, and you will increase. Hold on, let me put the camera down here and take this wheel off for y'all so I can show you that piece better. Yes, let's move this out of the way. So anyways, that's this piece right here, okay? The knuckle plate, what do they call it? Rear knuckle plate, right there. So you see how this turnbuckle here is mounted on the downward side? That gives the tow out effect. You can even see it moving a little bit through here. It's easier with the wheel, but if we mounted this turnbuckle on the upward side, we get the tow in effect. So the wheel would tow inward on suspension compression, and we'd get a slip effect instead of the grip. So since I have the wheel off here, I'm going to explain a few things. The most important part of this active part is this turnbuckle bit I just explained, this knuckle plate and this turnbuckle, where it links here to the frontmost rear toe block suspension mount. Without this here, we got no kind of active towage. We have just this knuckle would flop around, and we'd be using the more solid one and not this type of rear arm that comes in the kit, the rear A-arm assembly. Yeah, we wouldn't get that. We wouldn't have that. We'd have the more standard style rear arm. Reve-D makes a standard rear arm as well, and upper knuckle, rear knuckle. So that came out before this rear active setup. But when you buy the whole rear end set, you get this. You get the upper arm piece, you get the upper arm mounting piece, you get the suspension mounts, the frontmost and the rearmost, you get the turnbuckle, you get these knuckles, you get that lower arm down there, you get that, you get this piece that also comes part as the rear arm where the shock mounts to, and yeah, you get quite a lot of hardware. You don't get the bearings and stuff that you transfer out of your other setup, whatever you're using before. And this car started as an SX3, that's why there's the purple bulkhead, purple B up front there, and the purple shocks, purple. So that's what. I still gotta try and get my hands on a purple final edition MC1, so I can make it all purple. Excuse me, but yes. So that's the brief explanation. But we get what do we get? This upper arm here, and the tuning here and here all relates to basic suspension tuning, where we can choose here the rear knuckles caster position and also the actual positioning of the upper arm itself. We got four options on this piece that comes with that kit. Okay, and then on the rear lower arm, there's the spacers and stuff. They space it the rear lower arm so it's the most middle position on the rear diff, so the drive axle is straight, and down there is the suspension lower shock mounting. I have my shocks mounted in the most straightest position for the most softest effect, but I do have some preload and a preload collar installed and long bulk up for extended travel. It's just because I want all the droop and all the travel for a little bit of flamboyancy, but that's that. And then you can also adjust the wheelbase down here on the lower bulk up side, down there with that turnbuckle. Okay, so that all comes with it. You can change the overall width here at the block if you want with the different bushings, but I would just leave that alone because this works pretty good as it is. And from the little instruction assembly guide, where to put things, lengths and all that, it does work pretty good, and I've done kind of mildish tuning to mine. We played around on other people's cars more than I played around mine. So when it came to tune mine, I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to set it and the effect and all that. Now, talked about the upper side there. Yeah, so you will do your, this is that, like I said, caster, position of the arm itself, and this turnbuckle here is for your camber. So that is to set camber. You can also do the positioning, 3-hole on the top, 2 on the bottom, for any kind of KPI for your rear knuckle, or just standard length positioning for that. And it does come with included spacers there for to make the arms here. You see how they're straight, mostly straight, in parallel here. I say mostly because it's slightly off, but you can adjust all that, and you can create bump if you want, bump on the articulation, much like bump steer in the front end of a car. So there's similar things to that. Yes, on the lower side I said you could adjust the wheelbase, and you can also adjust the camber from the bottom, but we typically do that from the top side. It's overall wheelbase that we do from the bottom side. And then, yeah, shock positioning where you want it a little more aggressive or more straighter on the bottom. The shock tower is the standard one that comes with the Reve-D, so that's the same sort of deal. More standardized tuning, but here, because this is a drop piece, I think they were going to do different pieces, but it looks like it's a floating, but it isn't. It's just not, this part here isn't attached here, it's attached over here. So, camber caster, all that up top, and then your shock positioning, and then for the active part is here on all this. So if you adjust the turnbuckle length here, that will adjust the initial toe setting. So that's the setting where when you place the car down and you see how much initial toe, like right here, see how much initial toe there is here? That's what that turnbuckle will set. But when you set the initial toe, that will have a small effect on the active effect, how much it can go out based on the articulation. There you can kind of see it moving. So mine is set in a mild setting. So even though I have a lot of toe in, I don't completely toe out in terms of going all the way to 0, but it gets kind of close. So it does straighten out a good amount. But if you wanted to change the effect, you can change that, the how much toe out effect in this case, because it's set for toe out. You can change the aggressiveness of the toe out and how much. So that is partially defined by the length here, but it's more defined by where you mount the rear knuckle plate here. There's 3 positions where, let me get a driver here. There's 3 positions where this screw is, where my driver is. Can we see that? Let me get some light on the situation. This screw here where my driver's pointing to, that screw is where you position the plate itself. So the further in you put it, the less length you can put here. That can make it more aggressive or mild. And then if you want to make the initial effect more aggressive or mild without changing the length of the turnbuckle here, you simply move this ball stud to the lower or the higher position here, or the lower. That will dull the effect or increase the effect. So you either make it more chill out or you make it more aggressive. So you have a couple options when it comes to that. If you were to apply full aggressive here and put this all the way in, the amount of initial toe in you'd have would be increased, but then the amount of active toe out effect would also be increased. So that would be like kind of the maximum, and that would probably be only useful on a super, like ice basically. I was going to say polished concrete, but I run on polished concrete now and I don't need that much because we tried it and it was too much grip and too much overall speed, especially on the straights. Couldn't scrub it enough, and at times the grip up effect would happen too soon and you'd be going off, the guys were going offline and stuff. So we ran some science, but it is definitely effective. It definitely works, and because it's a complete rear end, it does look pretty nice to outfit an MC-1. But even the MC-1 chassis itself without this rear end was pretty dang good without it. When we applied this rear active end, some people already had the rear lower arms and the upgraded rear knuckles by Reve-D, but they had the standard upper arm link, just a turnbuckle link basically. They didn't have this. So for those people, buying a whole nother arm set here in Canada was about $300 or $330 for the entire rear arm set, but you get an entire rear end. So guys that already had the 2 pieces on both sides, that was hard to swallow, because then it was like replacing half of what you'd already purchased, which is, yeah, that hurts. But the effect was profound and it was worth it. So some people did do it, not everybody. Some people still don't have upgraded Reve-D arms. They're still running the Yokomo aluminum and or plastic rear arms. So, you know, many flavors of the MC-1. But for me, I hadn't got the rear Reve-D arm or the rear knuckle, the standard versions that they first brought out. So this entire rear arm, the whole set, and being inactive, it was just, that's perfect because I can upgrade my entire rear end, and then the car is now 100% Reve-D in that sense, pretty much, in terms of the, 100% Reve-D except for these few Yokomo required pieces there. So yeah, so that's basically that. My car's set in a more mild setting, as you see here. My toe in is probably at least 2 to 3 degrees initial toe in. So when it toes out, I think the mildness effect is about I'm gonna say like 30 to 40%. barely 50% because I'm not going all the way to zero. I'm going close, maybe at least 50%, but something like that. Whereas a couple other people went a little bit more aggressive, but they had a slightly different like other suspension settings. That also was the reason why we chose a slightly aggressive application on the toe out and the active setting. So yeah, that's that. And pretty much that concludes my little video here about that. Not too much I can say about that without deep diving into, you know, suspension theory and all that kind of crazy stuff. But the combination of the rear active toe and, well, the Reve-D itself, and then this rear active toe rear end, it was definitely worth it, because once one or two of us did it and we saw the effect and a few people drove it, they went and got it for their MC1. So it definitely works. It's definitely a nice upgrade if you haven't put any other upgrades into the rear end of your MC1. If you have, yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, but there'll be someone to buy up those parts you're pulling off your car to upgrade your other one. Someone's always looking for an upgrade, you know, whether they just started out or whatever, for their second car. So yeah, that, you just hang on to them for spare parts, because you never know. But yeah, it works good. I recommend it to anyone. It's just it's a little bit, you know, it's a bit of money, but the effect is profound and you can adjust it quite a few ways. And yeah, I love it personally. So yeah, in terms of other conversion kits, a couple people asked me online what was my favorite, or what one you know, do I like. The MC-1 I think is the one I like the most, only because a lot of us decided to go with it. It does work really well. Reve-D did a really good job designing it and making a conversion for the YD2, so it would be like it was kind of a half and half at first, and now it really is its own thing pretty much with all the final version and all that. There's a lot of other conversion kits for the YD2, and there's a bunch of others that are popular and that do work pretty good. But throughout 2021 and 2022, the one I kept hearing the most about, and the one people wanted the most, at least in my area, and well, my area for sure, was the MC1, the Reve-D. The one, yeah, internationally I heard about the most, or that I seen being resold the most amongst all kinds of people, was the MC1. It was moving around everywhere. So yeah, there was quite a lot of conversion kits that have come out for the YD2 over time, of many versions of YD2, but in terms of, I guess, like the all-out sweat, the all-out large performance, MC1 really did that. It really took it to the extremes. And I know there's a couple other conversion kits that, yes, you can get this level of performance for sure, but I just think this one, just kind of like the YD2, it became pretty popular pretty quick, and people have done some pretty crazy tuning with it. But generally, yeah, like, it works, and this thing dances around the track, and it blows people's minds how much kind of torqueability and weight shiftability I have, and even just the natural drivability of the car, where you don't even drive it hard and you can just kind of feel it weight shifting and moving, and you are really driving it by throttle, but you don't even have to drive it hard. But my personal car here, this one is set a little bit more sensitive than most people's cars, so to really get the maximum out of it, you gotta like drive it, but it's not like you have to fight it. You just have to really find the sweet spot in it, because it's so tuned to me. There's that level of sensitivity that it takes somebody else a while to extract and figure out. But when they kind of get taste of it, when the car dances around on boost, or a boost e-brake, you know, like on your trigger, and that profound boost and brake effect where you can shift the weight super aggressively, that's when it starts blowing people's minds. So now with the new gen cars from 2022, we're starting to see this, where increased suspension travel, stroke, softer oils, more pistons are coming out as standard in kits. So we're gonna see more of this into the mid 2020s, and 2023 is upon us. And yeah, we've had, like I said, a couple new chassis released. So for me, in terms of, yeah, whenever some new conversion kit comes out, or some high performance car comes around and someone wants me to check it out, right now this is my benchmark, because this is the car I kind of drive the hardest. This is the one I've put a lot of tune time in and research, and built and tuned a number of other people's MC1s to help them get on their ways. And every single MC1 I've built has turned out a little bit different, not only because of the parts or donor cars used. Not everyone used an SX3 or whatever. There was many levels of it. Some didn't even use a kit. They literally just bought parts off the wall to complete it, which either way, you're going to be spending the money. So there's that. But yeah, every single MC1 has turned out a little bit different, drives a little bit different, but most of them now are at the level where they're tuned and personalized to their owner, which is the end game basically. But some people say, I love the way your MC1 drives, or they're like, yeah, yours is too sensitive, I can't do it, or I have trouble, you know, driving it as hard as you do. And that's just because it's on the personalized tune level. It's not on that sort of like rental car or bad shop version 1 friendly, everybody can drive this and drive it kind of hard level. This is the sweaty bobetti, you know, full-on competition spec, you know, what other crazy words can I use? Like, just the serious level car where you don't really let too many other people drive it because you don't want them to either find out your little secrets or just, you know, oh, your car drives so good, how do I get it like that? Well, secrets. But no, like nowadays, nah, it's not so much as secret, it's more of how you apply it. And like I was saying, I can hand anybody the radio to this car, but right now, only I can drive it as hard as possible, whereas anybody else can get close, but they can't extract the maximum. And that's usually when they say, it's a little too sensitive, or obviously don't want to crash it, but they're like, yeah, I don't want to push the limit too hard, or I'm not sure how to extract everything at the highest limit, at the full attack mode, which is totally fair because there's other people's cars that I can't do it either. I built their car, helped them build it, tune it, and then once they tune it to their personalization, even I can't extract the maximum. I can feel it, but I just can't get it because they've mastered their car on their tuning. So that's when we get to the really highbrow, or the really high-end version tunes where you're finalizing your tune and you kind of just leave the car, and then after a while, you don't want to like sell it, but you're like, you want a new challenge because you've kind of mastered the sweat of the current era, and it's what's next, you know, that kind of thing. Or I want to go with an older car and do that kind of stuff. So, but yes, in terms of the MC1 being good, it's great. I love it. And even though it's the bigger money cars, you're spending not just hundreds, you're spending upwards of a few $1,000s. Like what you're looking at here is several $1,000s worth of car parts, electronics, and a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears in tuning. But in terms of raw dineros spent, there's a good amount of dineros here. So when it comes to serious spec cars or new gen stuff, we do compare it to these super high-end, almost like hyper level of chassis. But they are competition spec level. This is serious level of performance. And yes, it shows. And it will run on many services. So yeah, that's that. And so if you're thinking about the MC1 reactive tow, it definitely works. It's definitely a thing. You can tune it all the ways, and hopefully that explanation just helped do a little bit more, paint a little bit more of a picture of how to tune it, or how to understand how it works and that kind of stuff. And yeah, if we need, if you'd like to see an onboard driving footage video where, say, the car's driving and I mount the camera just off the front bumper like this, something like this, and you can then see the rear active working, or even this shelf here, if I mount it, say something like this, and then you can just see the activeness happening as the car shifts the weight, or like a rear biased view, and you can see it like this. I'll film it if you want to see that. Maybe I'll just do it anyway. But yeah, if you want that for just a more visual driving example, because I did that with the Rhino and that kind of stuff with the McPherson strut front end, and I'll do that for this too if you'd like a visual presentation of that. But hopefully that explanation helped, and help you tune it and just get it going. Yeah, the instructions are like, they give you the basic, just how to throw it together and stuff like that, and the initial sort of settings, like I said. But that's beyond that. They don't really explain it online on the web page. It isn't like overly explained. It's just the effects and features are explained. So hopefully this could help illustrate it and make some sense of it, and help you guys get yours sort of tuned or understand your rear end, so that you can get yours working and do some crazy backy entries and stuff, because that's what I love doing with this car, is amongst with shifting the weight, I love doing crazy 90-degree backy entries and bringing it back and then drifting around. So yes, so thank you for watching, and hopefully that could help y'all. And it was a bit about 25 minutes now, but yes, hopefully that helps. And like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Let me know if that did help, and if you needed a little bit more explanation or just reassurance or something like that, yeah, just drop me a line on the comments there, and I'll try to hit you back and go from there. Thank you for watching, and more stuff to come. Bye now.